name of the show will be The World's a Stage, a bit of a takeoff on William Shakespeare, and a lot about the imagery I will be showing in the exhibition at the Temple. My pieces are images of performances that I've attended. So they're stages, and they're all etchings, and they're all from on-site drawings that I've done during attending performances turned into etchings. An etching is an image made from a plate. Here's a plate. And I usually work on zinc. This is zinc. And the image is put onto the plate by various processes and etched in, and then cleaned, and then inked, and then printed onto paper. Basically, my drawings are done blindly because when you're sitting in a performance, you're sitting in the dark. The stage is lit up. So I'm drawing blindly. I've done musical events, I've done opera, dance, ballet. I have a Shumka dancer one, and I have images as well from the little synagogue on the prairie, which I feel is a bit of a performance in my life. When I'm working on the drawing for the etching, it is basically a line drawing, but then I embellish with value, with texture. Quite often I use lace. My late father was in the fabric business, so I have all kinds of lace samples that he left for me that I can embed into the etching plate, so it's very personal. And I quite often add watercolors after the paper's dry, and embroidery, gold thread. So I might embroider earrings on people. I might embroider a clothesline. In the little synagogue print, I have a mezuzah with a little gold embroidery. So it's subtle, but if you look carefully, you'll see a little gold mezuzah on the door. I would call them multimedia because of the embroidery, the washi paper, the watercolor. So they're not traditional in that way. So yes, there's lots of texture and almost 3D look on the images. Quite often I will add those smaller embellishments and plates along the edges or the bottom as an afterthought. But I'm usually working on one large plate because that's a huge job. It's a time commitment. And once that's done, I might add things. A lot of my pieces have a main image in the middle, flanked by possible totems on the side. And some have a proscenium around them, like a curtain. Because etching or intaglio is such a lengthy process, it's not direct where you take a pencil, you do a drawing, you're done. Or you have a paintbrush and a canvas, and you see the color, that's what it is. It is working in black and white for quite a long time, sometimes days, weeks, months, because the etching process is very lengthy, and then adding or subtracting from there. I think people remember my work because of the detail, the textures, and the colors. People relate to the subject matter. Many people have been to see the Phantom of the Opera. They see my etching and it recalls memories of having attended, or the music. Both my kids are musicians, so I love having a musical element in my images. Performance, it's something I really, really want to take in. For example, Cirque du Soleil. I've been to many of those. And I just sit there drawing rapidly everything I see, trapezes and somersaults and jugglers, and the music and the colors and the makeup. And then I have so many ideas having attended that I feel I need to get it down as an image. So they turn into etchings because I love to do etchings. A few years ago, my husband, Stan Phelps, who's also an artist, purchased an old church in a town called Loreburn, Saskatchewan, and we turned it into a cultural center, the only church that had a mezuzah on the door, and we had art shows there. We drove back and forth to Loreburn from Calgary many times, and our drive went through the Badlands, through Drumheller. So that image is my recording of something we would drive through, something we would look at. We would get out of the car and admire the badlands, the hoodoos, the cacti that were growing there. Each one has an image in the middle of that particular Alberta landscape that we're all familiar with. And the side totems are what grows there. So the one in that image has cacti at the sides. We were not damaged by the flood, but so many people were. We had to leave our home for 3 or 4 days. And when we came back, we had lots of things to clean up and to help people who were flooded. So that image shows the full moon, because it was a full moon, and it has the map of downtown Calgary down the middle, and it's cut in half because everyone's lives were cut in half that flood. So it's a bit of a map, which is photo etching on the chine collé paper, and then the big full moon to show the waves and the tides and the river, the power of water. Children of the Wind is showing my depiction of the little synagogue on the prairie with the rabbi, his wife, and their 7 children in the doorway. And I have as well, I've added other Jewish symbols. There's a shofar along the bottom, there's talit on the sides, there's Havdalah candles, there are several images, and along the top I show horses drawing wagons, because that's how the pioneers got around. The reason it was so important to me is that my maternal grandparents were pioneers in Alberta. I jumped on the bandwagon, so to speak, and decided to depict it as an etching. I put some smaller etching plates along the bottom, almost like a frame, to embellish it, and it was in honor of my pioneer background and Jewish community in Calgary. The images all are about the drama of my life and my parents' lives and what they went through as immigrants, and how lucky I've been not to be an immigrant, but depicting those as stages, as images, multi-plate images that tell stories. Yes, performance of life. And the world's a stage. We all are on a stage. It's not a dress rehearsal. We're here now.